I guess a lot of it's just the general criticism that we're coming back to is like how much of the show can just rely on referencing things as jokes, and how much should it try to focus on being more of a satire of Star Trek? Because I think if you flesh out the like the chain of command storyline and you turn it into a funny storyline, it's almost more of a satire than this one, which just seems to be more of a sitcom setup that has Star Trek trappings stuck to it.
Right.
And I think Star Trek I assume this is the way that they would want to go if they're looking for a more general audience to tune into this show. But I think the Star Trek fans would look for a little bit more of a satire spin on it, where the jokes being made kind of more are by necessity needs to be known. Like the original content needs to be known. The original source material needs to be recognized in order for the jokes to make a little bit more sense. And I think they're trying to strike the balance between those two things. And I don't know if the balance will ever be fully satisfying as something where you'd be like, that's a great animated show. It'll always just be kind of like, that's a fine time filler between seasons of real, quote unquote, real Star Trek.
Yeah. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive. I think you can find a middle ground. But yeah, I don't know what that middle ground is going to look like. Whether or not it is going to be, you could be right. It could be ultimately just kind of fine, because in order for it to be really good, you have to commit to one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's impossible to make a show that's satisfying, riding that line. Right. And I mean, they might be able to find that balance, and maybe it is actually really good. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Does the show even need to do that? Like, is there a desperation for this show because it's animated and because it's seen as like a Star Trek show, but not really a Star Trek show? Like, I mean that in the best way possible. Does it even really need to be anything better than something that people tune into every week? Like, it doesn't. I think other animated shows have a potential, like a sort of need to separate themselves and be exceptional, like like South Park or Simpsons or Family Guy. Even like because they are the only thing of that brand, they have to excel so that people will tune in to them.
Right. Sure.
And this one doesn't really have to. It's more riding the coattails of Star Trek, both creatively and advertisingly, marketing wise.
Yeah.
So. I guess it's just a polite way of saying it's kind of filler content. It's like, how good does it actually have to be? Or is this just fine the way that it is? And you just have to accept that it's going to be this sort of a weak sauce version of a animated show and a weak sauce version of a Star Trek show mixed together. And this is the best case scenario. Well,
what's interesting to me about it is if I was in the production room, I don't know if it's not a sausage factory. It's like,
if I was in the machinery, a cog in the machine.
If I was out on the floor the
foreman came up to you.
No, if I was one the showrunner or whatever, I feel like I would kind of recognize that, or I would hope I would recognize that Lower Decks has the most potential to be a crossover hit, I think. Because Discovery is still fairly niche, because it's, I mean, well, we'll see what happens after they air it on CBS proper. But I think Discovery is still fairly niche, and Picard is ultimately fairly niche as well. And neither one of them were received super, super well. Excuse me. So I think there's kind of like an opening for Lower Decks to kind of like slip through. And if they can really tighten it up and really, if they really lean into it and really go for it with the show, I think it could be it could come out on the other end as the best. No, we have said that it's the best of the new Star Treks, but we are like, we're overly critical of the stuff. But I feel like it could be just a more widely accepted show as like, oh, this is the Star Trek that I like, because it has a little bit more room to play in a wider. My metaphors are just going all over. I was going to say room to play in a wider umbrella. I don't know if that makes any sense. But you know what I mean?
A lot of room under this umbrella to not get wet by it's raining cats and dogs.
fit lots of people into this umbrella. Just don't open it inside a house. But like I think it has the most room to really kind of make a run.
Yeah.
And really be something that stands out, because 3 seasons into Discovery we're just sort of like, yeah, okay. And Picard was like, yeah, okay. It's not really, you're not really reaching a lot. It doesn't feel like either of those are reaching a lot of new people. I feel like Lower Decks might be able to do that if they really lean into it.
Yeah, they screwed it up by they should have done the Enterprise route and not put Star Trek into the title. It should just be Lower Decks, so people go, what's this animated show, Lower Decks, about spaceships and the Federation? It can't be Star Trek.
It was hilarious. The first episode was all Star Trek jokes. I can't wait to see what the rest of the show.
what other sci-fi franchises?
Oh.
What other sci-fi franchises are going to get the skewer of Lower Decks and its critical analysis?